this webinar today will highlight how TTBS Smart Solutions can enable you to efficiently work remotely and meet the ends of your customer and organizational needs. To set up the context for the day, Siddharth Chandeliya, who is Head of IT at Indian Oil Tanking Limited, Mr. Rishit Sheth, who is CFO and Head of IT at NHB Ball and Roller Limited, Mr. Radhesham Maneria, who is Head of IT at Cello Group, Mr. Ravi Agrawal, Chairman at Gencrest Private Limited, and Mr. Nailesh Patel, who is Senior Manager Information Technology at Modi Motors Age. And the panel would be moderated by Mr. Ashutosh Bijur, who is CTO at Acheon Labs. With this, over to you, Ashutosh sir, to take the discussion forward from here.
Brilliant. Till then, we should get started, I guess.
Yes.
Hi, my name is Ashutosh, and I'm the CTO of Acheon Labs. Great to meet all of you. So we have a very interesting topic here about how we can adopt technology and new technology specifically, and what is the framework we can use to make sure that we are able to leverage the advantage of these technologies especially for smaller organizations. So if I may request all the panelists to speak and initially speak their opinions and their perspectives and share their perspectives for a few minutes, and then we can have a little more interactive session where even the audience can ask some questions to the panelists, and then we can take those questions and answer them. Can I request Chandan to go first, since you were introduced to us?
Hi, Ashutosh. Thank you. Thank you for bringing us here. It's our pleasure. Frankly speaking, what we have seen during this COVID times, that immediately after last 2 years, 1.5 years back when COVID started, we found out that a year before that we had started our digitization process, which was basically getting onto cloud-based applications, moving all our files onto the cloud. And suddenly, when this COVID happened, we found out that within 2 days we have to start working from home, and it was extremely beneficial for us that we had started to move all our applications on the cloud, and we did not have any trouble moving and working from home. So what we found out that moving on to cloud-based applications was extremely useful for us before COVID happened, and that's what my suggestions to you, that most of you should start using cloud-based applications which are using AI, ML, and latest technologies and trends. So that's my take on it.
Thank you so much, Chandan. Certainly, the cloud has made a very, very big impact on digital transformation for many companies. So that's certainly one very important aspect. Can I request all the panelists to please show their faces and share their video so that we can also see who's talking? That would be wonderful. So, thank you so much. Can I request Barun to go next?
Yeah, sure, Ashutosh. So thank you so much for giving us time. And Chandan rightly said, yes, work from home has actually changed everything, and the teams or the companies who were ready with their cloud strategies have actually fared very well moving to the work from home, and transition was also smoother for them, but everyone was not that lucky. I've been from the education company and experience of around 25 years. I will actually talk about how this pandemic has changed the learning industry. So training is always a part of all companies, whether it's formal training like your onboarding, compliance, product training, sales training, or informal trainings, which is mostly face-to-face training or on the job or mentoring. Companies has always approached this in a hybrid manner. So companies were always doing some face-to-face training and some online training. But with this pandemic, this has changed. So there's some trainings like face-to-face trainings like onboarding, where a new employee comes to your organization and you prefer that this is mostly done face-to-face. Or maybe consider a call center kind of a training where You look at more of the pronunciation, the tone of the person, and the mentor is very important to listen to the conversation and then give a feedback. Or consider an on the floor training where mentor is talking about machines, how they operate, those things, and the team building exercises, which is always in a closed room. But with this pandemic, since this was not possible, the approach has to change. And what has done is, with the cloud, AL, ML, people are actually finding out ways how these can be done online. So just consider an example. We are having a meeting on Zoom. Previously, everybody thought that these meetings are better in an auditorium or the classroom. But now we are actually adapted to this. And it is not that everybody actually like to be online, but this is maybe the way forward. Just giving you some examples. Like the soft skill trainings which I talked about, the scenario which I talked about, the cloud actually gives you services like natural language processing, which are now very cheap and easy to use. So companies are now using NLPs to get and evaluate how the communication has happened. And it also gives you a sentiments of the user itself, which is more document, which is more I would say mentor agnostic. So it is not the views of the mentor or the teacher who is teaching it. It is a system which will giving you these numbers. Again, the classroom training, we have seen our kids moving from the classroom to online training. And yes, it took some time for teachers to adapt to that. But if you see now the Teams, Zooms, they're every month coming up with new features which aid classroom training. They have surveys, they have assessments, everything built as part of the system, and they are evolving. So they know this is not a short-term solution, but a bigger solution. Again, training industry has started using AR, VRs in their scope, where they want to convert the machines into an AR, VR, where I can actually view the whole machine sitting at my home. And mentors can actually guide you doing that. The chatbots, the bots which are there on our mobile phones, you just ask them and they give you the answers. This is actually aiding your customer support, sales support, and on-the-job training. So all these were possible before also, but with the advance in technology and the cost-effective cloud services, and this pandemic has actually sped this movement faster, adoption faster, and brought these technologies into mainstream. And definitely the training has changed for best, and it will go a next level very quickly. So that's all I have to say. Over to you, Ashutosh.
Thank you so much, Varun. Certainly, skills on emerging technologies is going to be a very important capability for all organizations. And so I think the way we learn is certainly going to transform quite a bit. Can I request Rishit to go next and share your perspectives, please?
Yeah. So basically, to introduce myself, basically, IT, I'm not the complete 100%. I'm handling a dual role as a head IT. Basically, I'm CFO working as a CFO with NHB Ball and Roller, and we are basically from manufacturing of ball for automobile industry, and we are in around 250 CR company as of now. So from IT perspective nowadays, since everybody, all panelists is saying this work from home scenario, so it is a need of the hour. So we are also in the very initial implementation of all this artificial intelligence, considering our requirement for our industries and everything. And also we have a lot of, in our industry, in our organization, we have very detailed advanced SAP systems. But we as a industry and as a company, we need now to go on these artificial intelligence systems on advanced and robust basis. So we have started very although we are on initial stage, but we have started a very hard effort to bring the entire company, because earlier, like this pandemic has changed its scenario. Now we have a different companies working at different locations, and how we are connected through one system, that is very much important. So yeah, so this is the need of the hour, and we'll definitely go more detail into this, and we'll come up with a new solution suitable to our industry.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thanks so much, Rishit.
Yeah.
That's really heartening to know that organizations like yours have started adopting digital technologies with passion. Prakash, may I request you to go next?
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Ashutosh. I'll quickly give you an introduction of myself. I've actually spent about 17, 18 years of my life in the media and entertainment industry and in IT. So I've spent my time with companies like UTV, Mosebear, Disney, and Xerox. In the last 5-6 years, I've been an entrepreneur myself. So if I have to look at it from a media and entertainment standpoint, I would like to talk about how cloud, artificial intelligence, these things have actually enabled the media and entertainment, and to a large extent forced us to look at it forced us to look at that. So if I have to talk about consumption of content, so earlier when productions used to have, so whenever there was a production that used to be happening for any kind of film, whether it was an individual producer or it was a studio or whatever, the revenue streams were many. So you had theatrical revenues, you had satellite TV sales, you had music sales, you had OTT, you had digital sales for the products, and you used to be recovering your monies on each of the films. Cut to in the last 18 months, what's happened is probably everything is now focused and clinging onto these kind of technologies. And now today, if you look at how content is being served to consumers, it's being served. Nobody's going to theaters, and I don't think that's going to happen for the next 10 months again. So the content is now consumed in your homes. We choose what we want to watch, and automatically the revenue streams have also focused and shifted towards the OTT side of it. While the media and entertainment industry is grappling with the nuances of what kind of revenue streams can bring us back to those kind of earlier revenues, we still have to see how it happens in the future. However, right now, as we see, there is a huge chunk that comes in from the digital side of the business. And consumer is very clear. The consumer has now got an option, and very clearly they have made up their mind, and the focus has completely shifted. I think all of us. So probably before the pandemic, I myself was not an OTT watcher. I used to always love watching films in cinema theaters, and most of the films I used to be going
after the pandemic. So before the pandemic, our infrastructure was on premises. We were managing sufficiently. Users are not facing any issues, and everything is running smoothly. But after the pandemic, the IT team, our support team was not available, and there many problems started. We started facing many problems because we have the pan India presence. Our data center is in Mumbai, and we were facing the problems in our ERP applications, the infrastructure related support. So after the pandemic, we have decided to shift one by one application on the cloud, because the cloud is it has the 100%, 99.95% of time. So that's why we have started to shift our applications on cloud. So first we shift our application on premises email services from on premises to the cloud, G Suite. After that, we have shifted our CRM application from on premises to the cloud. Now we are working to shift our application from on premises to the cloud because of the availability, because of the support, and the pandemic. All the situation has changed because of the pandemic. So the cloud is the better option. We should the better option. It has the availability, security, the scalability, and the wide growth of the services, massive storage capacity is available, all these things. So we are working on it. Yes, thank you.
Thanks so much, Radhesham. You pointed out a very important aspect of digital transformation, which is moving away from capex to opex.
Yeah.
I think technology expenses are no more considered as capex. They need to be considered as opex. And all of these movement of going to the cloud and using service model for technology is certainly going to be an important capability that we need to change our perspective on technology investments. So thanks so much. Sushil, can I request you to go next, please?
Yes, Ashutosh. Good afternoon, all. I'm Sushil Kumar Patil. I'm solution specialist associated with Tata Tele Services for the past 8 years. Total, I have 20 years of experience, ranging from system integrator to telecom service providers to business development, number of things. But overall, it is on telecommunications side. And what I see was the shift which is there. It's just just it was a pandemic which is there, but the shift started 5 to 6 years back. Holistically, that is what my observation. It was not shift was not due to some man-made or some environmental changes or the disruptions which was there. It was the shift where the businesses were starting to think and planning from moving from a capex based or capex sensitive approach towards the OPEX sensitive approach which is there. And then, the bandwagon of technology coupled with it, like, from on-premise to cloud, then cloud again, there were various models coming into picture, the infrastructure as a service, which was the stepping stone of it, then platform as a service, followed by software as a service. So now it's the next generation where, everything is on the cloud. You just need to plug and play and you can start your business. You can focus more onto your core competency which is there. So businesses are evolving. At the same time, the technology is also evolving as per the businesses to ensure that businesses in any way, with the technology, there are work from homes options which are being claimed and been accepted by all of the segments of industry. People, in manufacturing, they are also coming up with this concept of work from home where there is a necessity where their employees can work from home. So that was a great revolution. If you say 10 years down the line or 6 years down the line, manufacturing industry going for a work from home for a certain people who are not into the operations but who are into the planning, they are going to work from home operation was supposed to be a crime. And frankly, I don't want to use this word, but that was supposed to be a crime. But nowadays, they are also evolving. They also want the employees take the benefit and reap the benefit of this working from home solution, coupled with lot of solution options which are there, which Tata Teleservices as a TSP is offering. Other players who are there, they are coming with various things. Chatbots is very unique revolution and disruption cost in the service industry, wherein if you do not have a manpower resource, still you can use this chatbots for answering the rudimentary questions which are repeatedly asked questions, and you can filter those questions or filter those queries that can be solved by an engine which you can pre-program using a natural language and coupled with machine language, and you can serve your customers. That is a great service satisfaction. People have accepting worldwide itself. In fact, within India also, some of the SMEs who are there, they are also welcome for this chatbot technology where they are serving their customers with this technology. Plus, there are few of the technologies as a business intelligence, wherein you can put your analysis of the current business trends. The machine will do a calculation, use the algorithm, and it will forecast 5 years down the line what your business approach should be there. People, man, whatever the inputs which is put in, he can see the future, or it will be like a third eye or a drone who can understand, and give a complete analysis of the future 5-10 years down the line, how he has to gear it right from the now. So it's a really good thing, and we are in the right track of the digitalization of this industry. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Sushil. I think Swapnil is also a panelist, right? Sorry, Swapnil, I'm not seeing your video.
Ashutosh, I would also like to add some points. So let me know.
Certainly, if we can just go through all the panelists and then we
Sure.
can get back into a little bit of discussion.
Sure. Because this is an interesting discussion, so a lot of new points have also, came across.
Certainly, absolutely. We'll just complete the round of all the panelists and then we
Sure.
can get into a bit of a more discussion. Brilliant. I don't think Swapnil is responding. So any other panelists that I've missed out that are hanging around here if we have not yet talked? Okay.
Ashutosh, if I can add few words.
Yeah, please. Absolutely. Most welcome.
Yeah. So basically, what we've actually had a very bright discussion today, and I got a lot many bright information coming from all the panelists. But we all understand and we agreed to one point that the digitization is the key. Mainly, the factor of availability and scalability are the key points. But what we've actually missed out to talk about is the compliance and security. Security is somewhat I've heard, but while with this we are choosing to go digitize and we're trying to make all the applications available. There's one more factor. You see, when we talk about digitization, when we talk about the solution, different solution, the array of solution is available all across. And when I say the choices are available, so of course we need to be really wise in choosing what fits to my need. My need means the particular industry or particular organization need. What fit into the media role that may not fit into uh, maybe an oiling company, may not fit into a manufacturing company, or the manufacturing industry per se. So choosing a solution is a personal choice. The key point there are basically the availability and scalability, and two factors which we should also focus on: the compliance and security. I think these are the 2 points which we may add to the information we've got so far. Rest other, I'm absolutely with the panelists now.
Brilliant. Thank you, Siddharth. So I'll just share a few of my perspectives since I've been only moderating so far. Maybe I can share a bit of my perspective.
We'll love to hear you as well.
Sure, thank you. So, quick introduction to me. I am Ashutosh Bijur. I'm part of a company called Axion Labs. It's a US-based innovation engineering company, and we've got, I think the good thing about what we have is a very fortunate opportunity to be able to be part of digital transformation of several different organizations. On an average, about 50 to 60 organizations every year. Since the last 10 odd years. I think what I would like to do is to share a little bit of perspective on what are the kind of ideas that people have used to overcome the challenges of moving from the current systems to digital systems. And to be able to do that, I think the key, certainly some of the panelists have already covered basic aspects of the fact that technology is no more an afterthought to your core business. I think every business needs to think about themselves as a technology company now, irrespective of what product or a service you are providing. And so, if you don't have technology skills in your organization, that's a very key skill that you are probably missing out on, and you cannot really treat technology as merely as an enabler. I think it's a very core part of your business. So there is a very big shift in organizations to treat technology as a core part of their business rather than an adjunct. CIO today in most organizations does not necessarily play a facilitator role. It's a strategic role. And so technology is no more just an enabler, it's a core part of your business. That's one aspect which, there's a bit of a mental shift that we need to go through to be able to start accepting technology as a core part of business. And if we don't have those skills in our organizations, we need to be able to invest in those skills, because any kind of digital adoption with no skills in-house is going to become a major problem, because you cannot treat an outsider provider as enabler for technology unless you are able to leverage the technology in-house in your organization. And so I think that's one of the biggest challenges that organizations are facing to go digital, that they don't have necessarily technology skills in-house. Of course, you can partner with different companies, but I think ultimately there needs to be quite a bit of change in our mental picture about how we invest in skill sets in our organizations. The second thing, Radhesham and Sushil and Siddharth already talked about is the move away from capex to opex, and certainly that's we cannot treat technology as a one-time investment. It is an ongoing investment that needs to be done. So even if you do a one-time investment of purchasing equipment or purchasing any kind of assets or technology assets, we had a Gartner speaker once who said that any technology equipment or even code, the shelf life is less than 2 years. That means, your depreciation on paper may be, more than 2 years. The asset has basically become totally useless in 2 years, right? So in 2 years, so effectively what we need to be able to do is, if now every time you make an investment in technology, if your window of opportunity is just 2 years, you would rather spend less money in an OPEX model so that, in 2 years you get better ROI than try to purchase something, because the minute you look at your window as 2 years, suddenly it becomes very obvious that OPEX is a better model than CAPEX. So I think that's the second very important aspect. The third important aspect is, we always like all these hyped up technologies of AI, ML and robotics and stuff like that. But the reality of our organizations today is that even we don't have a basic set of capabilities in-house. And this is not just India, this is all over the world. I mean, most of our customers are in the US and Europe. And I think any company that is more than 10 years old today will always be a few steps behind where they need to be in terms of adoption of technology. Anybody who's less than 10 years old, you're probably lucky that you're born in an environment where you don't have to worry about your email and you don't have to worry about your data. Most of it is already on the cloud. But any organization that more than 10 years old, I think there needs to be a significant investment in changing some of the business realities that you are facing through. And Radhesham already pointed out, for example, that they are a relatively old organization. They will have a lot of challenges, moving away from their legacy technology into new technologies. And so, of course, we need to be keeping track of the AI, ML and NLP of the world and analytics and stuff like that. But I think till we have the basic data of our organization in a digital form, it's going to be very difficult for you to adopt anything. And when you talk about data in an organization, again, the most important data that we have found to be relevant for people to focus on is customer data. So if you're worried about, there's so many data, I have spreadsheets and I have this and that, prioritize on customer data. You are going to be a winner when your customer's relationship to you is digital. And when your digital transformation, the first focus needs to be the customer experience needs to be digital. Irrespective of what organization you are and what business you are in, if your customer experience is digital, you are making the right thing and making the right step forward. So I think these are a few learnings that we have observed as part of digital transformation journeys that we've been part of, and we're happy to share specific examples if we have more time to discuss. But that's where I'll leave my observations. Thank you. So Chandan, I know you had a few points you wanted to raise. So
yeah, so I would like to add a few more points. Basically, as everybody said, within the next 3 to 5 years, we expect that there will be exponential increase in the number of commercial AI-based applications. A study shows that AI applications falls into 3 broad categories. First category is product applications, that is embedding AI in products or a service to provide end customer benefits. Example is Netflix recommendation engine or voice search in your mobile or TV. Second category is process applications, that is to incorporate AI into organizations' workflow to either automate process or to improve them by augmenting worker effectiveness. Automated voice response system is an example of such systems where it can be used for the first year customer support. And the third category of AI applications is, in insights applications, which also, some panel members said that it harnesses the advanced analytical capabilities such as, machine learning to uncover insights that can inform operational and strategic decisions across the organizations. Example, predictive algorithms can be set up to segment customers into groups within, similar needs and buying patterns, etc. It then uses this information. You can use it to prioritize sales efforts and promotions, etc. So basically, what I wanted to say is, there is digital marketing. I am from the, digital marketing area. So, you can apply digital marketing framework into your business and build this agile strategies for digital marketing. Also for different departments, like, Varun said about, training HR departments, etc. So these processes can be applied. I have some 5-point framework, which can help the audience, which is called the PRACE, PRACE, which is being very commonly used in digital marketing. So first is the plan. So, you need a plan to win. So you can manage and optimize digital channels against defined targets, KPIs, and focus investment in content marketing and digital media. Second is the reach. Reach involves building awareness of a brand, its products and services on other websites and in offline medium in order to build traffic by driving visits to your websites, microsites, and social media pages, etc. So AI application allows a smart content curation generation nowadays, programmatic buying, voice search through, these AI applications. Third point is ACT, that is encouraging interactions on your websites and in social media to generate leads, where, the site visitors and prospects takes next action in their journey when they initially reach your digital assets. Again, there are AI applications which allows, AI targeting, predictive analysis, lead scoring, etc. Point number four is convert. This is conversion to sale occurring either online or offline. It involves getting your audience to take that vital next step, which turns into paying customer, whether it's online e-commerce channel or offline e-commerce channel. So AI applications which are allowing, to target, retarget, personalization, preferences, chat application have been talked about. And point number 5 is the engaging. This is a long-term engagement, that is, developing long-term relationship with the first-time buyer to build customer loyalty as a repeat purchase or using communications on your site. So there are AI applications which allows predictive customer service, marketing automation, drip marketing, etc. So according to me, important takeaway from the digital marketing perspective is, results can be measured by repeat actions such as repeat sales and sharing content through social media. We can also measure the percentage of active customers, email subscribers, customer satisfactions, recommendations, and so on and so forth. So all search engines like Google, Bing, Yahoo, or social media channels, and most of the digital marketing tools are using now AI with PRACE framework for your benefit. So I would say start using it from today. Also start using latest cloud-based applications for your business needs, such as accounts and finance, HR, marketing, or production processes. All latest applications on cloud are using AI ML. So you don't need to worry about implementing it or developing it on your own. So this is what my points were.
Thank you so much, Chandan. Siddharth, I know you have a question from somebody in the audience. Can you please repeat the question and answer?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, so I've got a question from, as you said, you are connected to VPN. So certain applications, your people are accessing over VPN. When you are, logically, when your users are connected to VPN, they can avail their services. You probably need to redesign your services. Usually when we talk about updates, patch updates or security updates, we have a particular time schedule. At this particular time, your server will push the patches to users, right? but that is in the normal scenario. When you're working from home, or a distance, then you need to really design your policy accordingly. That if a person who is remotely connecting to your infra, can we check through whether the patches is update or not? So if not, then the system updates the patches first and then let the user get into the VPN or something like this. This is a solution. There are solutions to problems, and also you can probably put your patch management on cloud. So people, whenever they are connecting to your cloud applications, they can directly download the patches. They may not be knowing when the patches is being downloaded, as it happens in normal. Right? That's what is the answer. And I believe panelists agree to my answer.
I agree with Siddharth. Siddharth, what we have also seen with our clients, as well as with our teams, that uh, because we want to connect to their systems, client systems through homes, not through the an environment, office environment. So what they have tightened their security from the IP configuration point of view, and the policies which are written, in the back end, which we have to strictly follow. So it is sometimes, online and offline processes both have to be carried out.
Wonderful. Anybody from ETML, ETBL, sorry, that want to share your perspectives on security and compliance, since we're
Sure.
talking about that aspect?
For Ashutosh and Siddharth. To an extent, what Siddharth put it is he was pointing on the framework and the regulatory perspective. On the cybersecurity front, there are various ways to cater this type of exceptions which are there. That's true. When you're working from home, you have the chances of your device to get compromised because the internet which everyone uses, right, that's an open internet. So nobody has a control on that internet. It can be a broadband connectivity, it can be a mobile hotspot connectivity, and the unethical hackers are just waiting to do and compromise your system and pick up the files which are which are required for them. So there is an approach which is there. One is going with an endpoint security. So there are a couple of vendors who are there. I would not I will not promote any of the vendors because we are vendor agnostic. So there are solutions like endpoint security, email security. So wherein by endpoint security, you can completely protect your device, though you are accessing it through an internet, that is any internet from any provider, or it can be a broadband. Still, you can protect your devices. That is, it has the features of data leak prevention. It has a inbuilt, you can say, a feature which is enhanced more of than an antivirus, which is there, so which has a predictive learning algorithm which understands and which gets updated on the various definitions of viruses, malware attacks. It takes care about your unwanted sites. You can restrict the sites which as per the user pattern he goes for accessing the site. So you can restrict the limited sites onto his laptop through that solution. Then there is another solution called as email security, wherein can ensure his mailbox is not compromised, uh, whether he's accessing from remote base. So these are few of the things which we can couple up with for the work from home users, and which ensures that the security and the framework and the compliance is adhered, and still he is able to do the business, and he is able to use his give his productivity in that time.
Okay, there is another question relating to security and privacy issues in the context of the draft bill pending for discussion in the parliament. Anybody in the panelists who has uh, knowledge and would like to answer this question? I'm afraid I'm not familiar enough with the bill to be able to make any comments here. But if any other panelist is familiar, please do comment.
I'd like to answer this. So data security and privacy bill, which is there in the is pending in the parliament. This is close to what we call uh, it's basically an enhancement of Data Security Act, wherein the pub, the private data of a user of an organization needs to be secured and pass through certain parameters while transacting using your cards and any other mode of transaction. So that has to pass through various parameters of security. This bill is yet to be approved, and I believe it will take some more time because it's not being even open for discussions as of now. What I've heard in Parliament, and the Parliament itself is going through a lot of roller coasters, so we do not know. We do not know when this bill is going to be discussed. But yeah, this is there, and it's pending for a long while.
I have something to add here as a security. So security is a very big issue, frankly speaking, and it cannot be discussed in such a short time. But see, frankly speaking, what Siddharth just said is about the compliance, the government compliance, etc. But so there is a data security, so data at rest. So it is on your hard disk and there is a virus, or it is lying on the cloud and then there is a problem, or there is a data which is in the transit and then there is a problem. So you have in the transit, you encrypt it and send it through SSL. So SSL or SSH kind of a security you can apply to. Or while disposing the data, deleting records or formatting disks, there is a confidentiality information problem could happen. There is a network security issues. So you have gateways, firewalls, VPNs that we've just discussed. Mail problems, endpoint security, software integrity. So these are the network security issues. So then there is identity. So now you have just think about usernames and passwords. You have to manage for your own applications. You have a Gmail, Slack. You have 3-4 banks. So you have to manage all these user identities, and think about a company where they have to manage the user identities of 100 people, 1,000 people, or more than that. In SME sector, let's say you have 50 to 100 people. You have to access management, different applications, their email username, passwords, etc., and their intranet passwords, etc. So that is a identity accessing security. You have business continuity issue. There could be system backups you have to take. So that is another disaster recovery or monitoring and reporting. So all these different levels of security. So we have to consider. We have to understand what is the risk first of all, and what point or what kind of security we have to implement for our systems.
Thank you. Thanks, Chandan. There's another comment or question. Yes.
I am so sorry to interrupt. I know we have many questions coming up, but considering the time, we have to move towards our next session. So.
Absolutely. Happy to.
Yeah. Thank you so much, all the panel speakers and all the attendees.